It aggressively approached the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea. Washington says talks with Iran remain scheduled this week despite the incident. Former US President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary Clinton agreed to testify in the congressional investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, allowing them to avoid being found in contempt of Congress. Former UK Cabinet Minister Peter Mandelson has quit the House of Lords after leaked emails tied him to Jeffrey Epstein, while British police have opened a criminal probe into alleged misconduct in public office. US Secretary Marco Rubio met India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar. Both leaders backed the new India-US trade deal and discussed cooperation on critical minerals and energy security. US President Donald Trump signed a roughly $1.2 trillion funding bill, ending a short federal shutdown after a 2017-2014 House vote. Son of late Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, Saif Ali Gaddafi has been killed. Forensic doctors examined the body of Saif al-Islam Gaddafi and determined that he died from gunshot wounds. Looking to ban social media for under 16, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez says no more pretending that technology is neutral. In his first reaction after French authorities raid X offices in Paris, Elon Musk calls the raid a political attack amid deepfake and political interference probe. Alright viewers, let's now start with news on the Epstein files. Now Melinda French Gates has spoken out following the release of new allegations about her ex-husband Bill Gates in connection with the late Jeffrey Epstein. The files reveal claims that Gates contracted a sexually transmitted disease and that he even attempted to secretly give Melinda antibiotics. Epstein allegedly also described Gates' involvement in quote-unquote morally inappropriate activities, including facilitating his illicit affairs and drug use. The documents also show that Bill Gates met with Epstein several times after Epstein's prison sentence. The discussions at the time revolved around expanding Gates' philanthropic efforts. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for Bill Gates has denied these claims, stating that Epstein was simply trying to damage Gates' reputation. Bill and Melinda Gates divorced in 2021 after 27 years of marriage. Melinda also later resigned from the Gates Foundation in 2024, distancing herself completely from her ex-husband and the foundation. Andrew K.P. Leong, a China strategist, joins us from Hong Kong in this discussion. Mr. Leong, thanks very much for joining us. Firstly, you're a China strategist. How do you think political observers in China are watching these developments taking place in the West?
Yes, well, I think it's not only people in China, but the world over, because this massive file, some 3 million pages, implicate the big and the powerful and the rich and powerful across the globe. Not just in the United States. I mean, you're talking about even there is a reference to someone connected with the Norwegian royalty in Norway. And then, of course, you have the some powerful political figures in the UK and who was connected with the previous UK governments. But if you look at the revelations, there seem to be a large number of people in the United States who are connected with the Democratic Party or under various democratic administrations under the Biden administration and before, and the release of such massive document, even with some references to Trump himself being redacted, suggests that this must have clear the legal system in the U.S., which of course is controlled by President Trump. And this suggests that the timing of the release may have got something to do with the midterm elections coming up, as a bombshell, um, um, to um, uh, to gear the votes against the Democratic Party. I mean, you can just look at the rich and powerful. A lot of them are connected with the Democratic Party, whether in the tech business, or in the financial business, or in the political arena. But no doubt there's a bombshell that affects the world over. And a lot of people, ordinary people, watching it with a degree of amazement and amusement.
Right. But now let's specifically talk about Bill Gates. All these philanthropic figures, the big institutions that he has built, is one to believe now that the entire push for philanthropy only came after he realized his connection with Epstein could become public and hamper his reputation?
Well, I don't think that it will drive up the money for the philanthropy. I think the philanthropy movement has wide support throughout the world, and there is a lot of good things the major philanthropy foundations have been doing, whether it be Bill Gates or other philanthropists. But I think it will highlight the fact that the whole political system in the United States caters for all these kind of transgressions hidden beneath the surface, because the body politics in the United States is connected with the so-called military-industrial complex, forewarned by President Eisenhower in his farewell speech many decades ago. And there was a lot of money involved, and even as a couple of maybe a decade ago, there was a book called um, Black Gold, or just exposing all the shenanigans in American politics, because a lot of money is supporting the various very respectable universities, respectable think tanks, and also, of course, the political parties. And so the whole system is affected by this. And now this is the revelation of this file seems to be used as a weapon against the big and powerful in the opposition parties.
Well, absolutely. We'll continue to discuss this, Mr. Leong, but do stay on with us as we proceed now. US President Donald Trump has signed a $1.2 trillion spending bill ending the partial government shutdown that began over the weekend. The bill now aims to restore funding to key federal programs, including defense, healthcare, and education, while also preventing a major disruption in government services. The legislation came after the US House passed it with a narrow 217 to 14 vote. President Trump moved quickly to sign the bill, calling it a great victory for the American people. The legislation funds most agencies through September 30, but only extends funding for the Department of Homeland Security until February 13. The partial government shutdown, which began on January 31, caused minimal impact on government operations so far. However, Democrats are demanding restrictions on Trump immigration enforcement tactics, particularly after deadly incidents involving federal agents in Minneapolis. Democratic leaders have reportedly warned that without significant changes to ICE and Homeland Security, they will not approve more temporary funding. All right, request Mr. Leong to join us back in the discussion here. Mr. Leong, how is this rift between Democrats and Republicans over the funding going to affect the Congress?
Well, this circus of temporary shutdowns and then also emergency funding is really a circus playing out, suggesting that both parties are at loggerheads because of the relatively thin advantage enjoyed by President Trump's the Republican Party. And so this thin edge is being exploited by the other camp, the Democrats, forcing shutdown in order to bring the other party to heel. So this game is being played out time and again. And this, as President Trump signs, is what he has signed is only a temporary relief until until the money runs out again. But then it's, as I said, highlights the deep-seated confrontation between the two major camps in American politics, suggesting that the so-called United States of America is no longer united. It's a disunited country, split across the center, various fault lines, not just between political parties, but between the supporters as well, and the whole society.
All right, Mr. Leong, we hear you. Thank you for your comments and for joining us here at NewsX World. And now moving ahead, viewers, the White House has hailed a new trade agreement with India following a call between US President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has stated that India has committed to stop buying Russian oil and will instead increase energy purchases from the United States, with possible imports also from Venezuela. The deal also includes a massive investment push, with India pledging $500 billion across key American sectors including energy, transportation and agriculture. The White House says the move will support American jobs and strengthen economic ties between the two countries. Both leaders are describing the agreement as a productive step forward in the India-US strategic partnership. All right, joining me now is retired Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar, international relations expert from New Delhi. Dr. Kochar, thanks very much for joining us. Firstly, Trump has made tall claims on India buying oil from Venezuela instead of Iran. That confirmation has not come in from India as of now. So how much can we really believe Trump, particularly on India buying oil from Venezuela now?
Thank you, Kriti. See, we have to see things in the entire perspective of Indo-US relations. There are many things Trump preempts the situation, and we don't hear a comment from the Indian side. I can take you back to the Operation Sindoor also. The ceasefire was announced by Trump, and later on the ceasefire happened. So the thing is that, you see, I think that is a style. Trump wants to take credit for everything, what he does, and before anybody can speak, he's the first one to let the cat out of the bag. So what we are seeing here is a trade deal has been or is going to be concluded. It is not yet signed, and it is having tariffs 18%. India will have to give tariffs in case it exports to America, and America is not going to, and India is not going to levy any tariff on American goods. So I think this is one aspect of the deal which would need careful scrutiny, because earlier 3 to 4% tariff was imposed on American goods, but now we see that America has a free market in India. So that is one aspect of the deal. The second aspect, as you mentioned, $500 billion, and of course I'll come to oil also. This $500 billion is only a medium to a long-term commitment, I would say, because a check of $500 billion has not been actually given to Trump, and we don't know because this is going to happen in the next 10 years. It's basically a message, a strategic signaling that trade is going to increase because Trump wants to appeal to his domestic audience also. If you remember, primary elections also very near. And Trump would like to show to his audience that he's doing a lot for them, which the
Yeah.
earlier presidents have not been able to do. And this figure of 500, if you remember, when Prime Minister Modi had visited America in February last year, this $500 billion figure was announced also at that point of time, after the visit. So I think he's trying to reiterate that this commitment, and the IT sector is going to get benefited now with the trade deal, the semiconductor, the pharma, the green energy, the supply chains, defense manufacturing. So all this is going to contribute 500 billion in times to come, I feel. So that is one perspective. Now we come to oil. So what is happening now is that we have started reducing our imports of oil from Russia. Reliance Industries have cut down by about 20 to 25%. And I think this is my understanding, though no statement from India has actually come about. The very fact that Prime Minister Modi spoke to the president of Venezuela, who is the president right now, and thereafter, the next day, Trump announces that India is going to buy Venezuelan oil and stop buying Russian oil. I don't think that would be a totally correct statement, because we will not stop buying Russian oil from Russia, because it benefits us. Venezuelan oil, two drawbacks. One, the rate is going to be much more than we buy from Russia. It won't be at the same rates. Secondly, the quality of the crude oil, Venezuelan crude oil is even more inferior than the Russian oil, though Russian oil crude quality also is not very, very great. But at the same time, Venezuelan oil is even of a lesser category. Though in 2024, just for the information of the viewers, $1.6 billion worth of Venezuelan oil has been purchased by India in 2024. 2025, India did not buy any Venezuelan oil because of the sanctions imposed by the United States. We also stopped buying from Iran. So we really had no alternative but to go to Russia, and it was imposed on us. So it's not of our own choosing that we went to Russia. It is because of the policies of Donald Trump or of America that we had to go to Russia. So I think Donald Trump's statement cannot be taken on its face value, because national interest is of utmost importance. And I think India's national interest suggests that we continue to buy Russian oil, and to some extent we placate the pressure which is being exerted on us by the United States, and start buying oil from US and Venezuela, even if it may be at a higher rate. But at times, geopolitics has to be balanced. And if we want a good relationship and a working relationship with America, we have to some extent satisfy the ego of this man.
All right. Now, but with this trade deal, should we think that the tariffs ordeal may be over for good?
It's $1 million question, Kriti, because nothing is permanent as far as Donald Trump is concerned, because that is what I'm seeing. You start with 25%, you make it 50%, and tomorrow, if India is not towing the line on some policy of Trump, from 18 he shoots it to 28. So really, as a a geopolitical analyst, I can say with conviction that as far as Donald Trump is concerned, nothing can be taken as permanent.
Right. General, stay on with us as we move on now. Viewers, people have begun returning to Gaza as Israel has reopened the Rafah crossing with Egypt, the enclave's main exit point. Two buses escorted by United Nations vehicles brought Palestinians to Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis after crossing from Egypt. The crossing has reopened in phases, allowing limited movement amid strict security checks. Despite the slow pace, many Gazans say even partial access brings relief, especially for those seeking medical treatment abroad. On February 3, only 16 people were allowed to leave and a few more returned to Gaza. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on Israel to allow immediate, unimpeded passage for humanitarian aid. UN Relief Chief Tom Fletcher stressed that Rafah must function as a full humanitarian corridor, not just for limited travel, to meet the growing needs of Gaza's 2 million residents. Requested Dr. Kocher to join me back in the discussion here. Dr. Kocher, the people who are now being allowed to exit Gaza are those who need immediate and life-saving medical care. Is it too little, too late at the border that has a crossing that has been opened now?
Kriti, I think we have to see this thing in slightly a more larger perspective. Yes, it is too late and too little, but at least a beginning has been made. I would say that.
Yeah.
And slowly it will get expanded. Now it is a limited way it is opening, and a limited amount of people are being let in, and movement of traffic has started. But I think it will take some time for it to be fully stabilized. It's I would actually take it as a tactical reopening, and Egypt and Israel and international agencies will have to manage the humanitarian pressure here. There is a critical overload on Nasser Hospital, and the arrival of these returnees will also highlight acute shortages, trauma care, medicines, power, sanitation. You see, it's a near collapse of the Gaza health infrastructure today. Then you have a security dilemma. See, whenever you are allowing people, now you don't know who's a militant and who's a civilian, because it becomes harder to identify because they are from the same community, same features. You can't differentiate between an individual that what a kind of tendencies he's having if he's coming inside. So I think Cairo also, Egypt also is very, very skeptical that it doesn't want any kind of permanent displacement to come into Sinai Peninsula. And that has been the stand of Egypt right from the beginning, because we have seen what happened in Jordan when Jordan accepted the Palestinian refugees almost a decade and a half back, and what kind of problems, law and order and security situation Jordan had to face at that point of time. So I don't think Egypt is going to allow that, and that is why this Rafah crossing is opening now, because all those refugees and all are being allowed to now come back into Gaza. But again, this reconstruction of Gaza is still not taken place. So I think it won't happen in a jiffy kind of a thing that everybody starts moving in. So it will be a incremental kind of a movement. But at the same time, I think the major actually concern is on the collapse of the healthcare infrastructure, because that would demand a greater humanitarian effort to bring it back, because people are suffering, diseases are there, life-saving medicines are not available, blood transfusion is depleted, and oxygen cylinders and etc. Whatever is required, generators, power supply. So there are a host of issues which would need to be tackled.
All right, Dr. Kochar, thank you very much then for joining me here in this discussion. And moving on now, viewers, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, the son of Libya's late long-time ruler Muammar Gaddafi, was killed Tuesday by gunmen who stormed into his home in western Libya's Zintan. According to reports, he was killed at 2 p.m. IST in Zintan in his home by a four-man commando. Saif al-Islam had been seen by some as his father's successor, despite being targeted by a warrant from the International Criminal Court for alleged crimes against humanity. His advisor Abdullah Othman Abdur Rahim has said that the four unidentified men had stormed the home before disabling surveillance cameras, and then they executed him. And viewers, that's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.